The Peruvian prisons aren't for the faint of heart, with politics, trade, and violence present within its walls. In this video, we look at how difficult life is inside these overcrowded prisons, and why someone not used to a brutal lifestyle couldn't make it. The Sarita Colonia prison in Peru is the most crowded in the world, and you're mistaken if you think you'll get your own cell here. A cell meant to house 4 inmates may really house 15 inmates instead. Inmates who weren't able to get a cell must sleep on mats in the hallways. And here's the golden rule. Everything costs money. Many inmates even have to hang hammocks on railings to make a makeshift bed because they can't afford mattresses or cells. So if you want some privacy, be ready to dole out some big bucks because nothing comes cheap here. It's $5,000 for a cell and $1,400 for a bed in the cell. That's absolutely insane, right? The numbers are astounding. Even though just 31,010 prisoners are intended to be housed in the 68 prisons across the country, there are currently a staggering 67,891 inmates. The ability of the jail administration to provide for detainees basic necessities in terms of housing, food, water, cleanliness, medical treatment, family visits, and legal help is jeopardized by the extreme overcrowding. So it's no surprise that every facility and service in these prisons is overburdened. And when all these things collide, there's bound to be violence and unrest among the prisoners. Well, you probably weren't expecting 5-star gourmet meals in Peruvian prisons, but what you're getting is still much worse. If you want half-decent food, you're going to have to pay for it. The only food you'll be provided by the prison is white rice and potatoes every day. That's it. And even that's in short supply. Since the prisons are filled up more than twice their designated capacity, the food is never enough for everyone. Therefore, unless you're at the very front of the line at chow time, it's more likely that the guards will step aside and let the people left fight over the bit of food remaining. But if you have some cash on you, your taste buds will definitely thank you. You can get some great dishes like beans and fried chicken because many prisoners have turned to preparing meals to sell for 5 solas or €1.50 using food parcels they receive from the outside. And it's not just the meals either. Cigarettes, drugs, mobile phones. You can get everything easily if you have the means. Now, bear in mind, many of these prisoners are in these prisons for drug trafficking. In the hopes of getting a few thousand euros, they get slapped with sentences of at least 8 years or more. Many of these inmates use banned substances even within these prisons, but the guards in the prison tend to look away. There aren't many reasons for these prisoners to find joy and leisure, so they let it slide. Then there's the rampant corruption. Not everything's always simple, though. Some who spend their lives in this prison cell don't really deserve the brutality. A prisoner who spent a year locked up in the prisons of Peru explains how he was caught before he left aboard a plane in possession of 25 ounces of cocaine, which he had planned to smuggle out of the country. Now, all that sounds about right. A person violating the rules was apprehended as he should be, right? Well, in the Peruvian justice system, things often aren't all that they seem to be. The prisoner explained how the guards beat him up violently, even though he never showed any aggression or intent to run. Next came 2 weeks of beatings and torture by the police who wanted to gain a confession out of him. Once he finally agreed, he was made to sign a confession that he had 664 grams of cocaine on him at the time of the arrest. He actually had 740 grams on him, but the amount that was snorted by the Peruvian agents, and any more that was kept by them, was conveniently removed from the tally. The prisoner was then paraded around as the police told the press that they had broken a major drug ring. The press later reported that he was caught with 20 kilos of cocaine, more than 20 times the amount there actually was. So you're facing a system that's against you. So while on the surface the Peruvian authorities are doing their job, the truth is sometimes much more complicated. It's more that their purpose currently is to sell the image of a job being done. While behind the curtains, they're looking to profit from the everyday bribes from the prisoners looking to get basic necessities, which should have been a mandatory part of the prison system in the first place. You're probably now thinking, how do these people even survive? If all that wasn't enough, sometimes you don't even need to be convicted to be sent into these hellish prisons. That's right. While most justice systems have detainment periods before trials, things work a little differently in Peru. The justice system's so extremely backed up that you may not be getting a trial date for over a year. And all that time is spent behind the very bars of these prisons. In fact, most of the prisoners behind bars in Peru aren't actually guilty of their crimes. The number stands at a shocking 59% of prisoners who have never gotten a trial date to determine their guilt. There are innocent people in those prisons having to bear the horrendous conditions, all while never being guilty of the crime they're imprisoned for. It sends shivers down our spine just imagining that it could be us. According to a 2012 report by the Peruvian Human Rights Organization, most of the prisoners held while facing charges end up spending at least 9 months in pretrial detention. Some people have been held in pretrial custody for far longer than this, even up to 18 months. But, of course, there's always a simple way to get a court date, same as there's an easy way for everything else. Just give a bribe. Our American prisoner writes in his memoirs that it cost $1,000 to get a hearing, which isn't doable for a poor man. So what can be done? The first step that's been taken, funnily enough, is by the prisoners themselves. After all, unlike the judicial system and their government, these men and women suffer atrocities every day, and there can be no better motivation to find a way out. Many ex-prisoners have detailed a whole business system being established in these prisons. This is through numerous inmates who have employed their skills to earn money from their fellow inmates by providing some form of service. These include the food businesses we mentioned previously, as well as other services, such as obtaining contraband, such as cell phones and drugs. Some inmates don't even limit their clientele to within the prison walls. Since the prisoners are already impoverished, they only have limited buying potential. So the more skilled workers among these inmates, who have skills like sewing rugs, sell them outside the prison with the help of some bribed guards. This helps inmates gain some income, and money talks in prison. Now, to their credit, Peru's government has been working to improve the country's prison system. In 2012, the country's president, Ollanta Humala, announced that $13.5 million was to be spent on improving meals, healthcare, and facilities in the prisons. This was a step in the right direction, but it's still not enough given the massive scale of the problem. The country must do much more to uphold these international standards due to its ongoing issues of overcrowding.